All right, I hereby call the May 6, 2024 Planning Commission to order at 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, will you please do a roll call?
Commissioner Glenn,
Here.
Commissioner Allen,
Here.
Commissioner Shane,
Here.
Commissioner McCabe,
Here.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Here.
and I have advance notice that Commissioner Cohn and Commissioner Scoggin are excused and not present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, that moves us to approval of agenda. Any additions or changes to the agenda? Any objection to approving the agenda as it is written? Hearing and seeing none, the agenda is approved. Commissioner Allen, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, that moves us to the consent agenda. We have the regular meeting minutes, and then the introduction for public hearing quasi-judicial matters. The first is Resolution 24-10, a variance in accordance with MSB 17.65 variance. Todd and Jennifer Luton request a variance from the 75-foot shoreline setback and a 25-foot public right-of-way setback requirement under MSB 17.55 to allow for construction of a 28-foot by 32-foot single-story cabin at its closest location, 21.9 feet from the shorelands of Big Lake and 10 feet from the east lot line, which also the west edge of the public right-of-way. The property is located at 8126 South Big Lake Road, tax ID number 6285000T001A. Public hearing is set for May 20th, 2024. The applicant, Todd and Jennifer Luton. The staff will be Peggy Horton, current planner. And a introduction for public hearing legislative matter, Resolution 24-07, a resolution of the Matanuska-Susitna Borough Planning Commission recommending the Assembly direct staff to assist the South Connect River Community Council in developing a special use district. Public hearing is set for May 20th, 2024. Staff is Alex Strawn, Planning and Land Use Director, and Julie Spackman, Long Range Planner. Any addition or changes to the consent agenda? And any objection to approving the consent agenda as it is written? Hearing and seeing none, consent agenda approved. All right, that moves us to committee reports, which we have none. Agency staff reports, do not see any there. Public hearing, land use classification. And now we move on to audience participation. So at this time, members of the audience may speak regarding any topic that is not on the agenda for public hearing. If anyone on the phone wishes to speak, they'll need to press *3. And there is a sign-in sheet. Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record. Do we have anyone in the audience? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Anyway, my name's Jean Holt, and I would like to talk about the
you-
introduction of the public hearing that'll have the final say-so on May 20th pertaining to the setback for shorelands.
Mrs. Holt, if I could have you spell your last name for the
Okay.
record.
My last name is Holt, Holt,
Thank you.
and I just want to make a few comments pertaining to the introduction of the shoreland setback. I've been, as you know, very involved with setback issues over the years. This particular setback or variance isn't necessary. It is a legal non-conforming structure, so they don't even need to have a variance. The only reason why they're getting a variance is so that they can make the structure 3 times larger than the existing structure. They want to go from a 320 square foot cabin that exists, legal non-conforming, to 896 square feet. So there's no need for a variance. And it's 3 times more the size of the existing structure. I know that we've had a problem, and the borough is trying to address it with putting together the Water Body Setback Advisory Board to address all the non-compliant structures. And this is a prime example of a structure, or I mean a piece of property that's non-compliant. I appreciate if you wouldn't, I appreciate if there won't be any variance granted until the Shoreline Setback Advisory Board can address what the problem is in the valley for the last 50 years, at least 37 years. So I appreciate if you would deny this variance when it comes to the final on May 20th. Thank you so much for commenting.
Anyone else from the audience on non-agenda? Okay. We have anyone on the phone? No one on the phone. Do we have any objection to closing audience participation? Hearing and seeing none, audience participation is closed. This moves us on to public hearing, quasi-judicial matters. And let's see here. We're going to go ahead and read into the record the resolution 24-04. It is a conditional use permit in accordance with MSB 17.30. Conditional uses for use permit for earth material extraction activities for the extraction of up to 40,000 cubic yards of earth material per year over a period of 60 years. The activity will occur on a 40-acre parcel at 9002 North Buffalo Mine, Moose Creek Road. Tax ID is 18N02E03B005. Applicants are Jim Baxter for Northern Gravel and Trucking, LLC. Staff is Peggy Horton, current planner. And at this time, we'll be reading the ex parte. Do you or any member of immediate family have substantial financial interest in any property affected by this decision, or will you recognize a feasible profit as a result of this decision? Okay. Have you received or otherwise engaged in ex parte contact with applicant, appellant, other interested parties, or members of public concerning the application either before, during, or after this matter was submitted for decision? That is a no as well. And are you able to be impartial in this decision? And that is a yes on the third question. So at this time, we'll invite Mrs. Horton to proceed
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, my name is Peggy Horton. I'm a current planner with the Development Services Division. It's my pleasure to provide the commission with an overview of the proposed conditional use permit this evening. The staff report for PC Resolution 24-06 can be found starting at page 47 of your packets. Jim Baxter for Northern Gravel and Trucking has submitted a conditional use permit application for the extraction of earth materials on 40 acres located on 9002 North Buffalo Mine, Moose Creek Road. The request is to remove approximately 2,400,000 cubic yards of material through 2083. This subject has received a earth material extraction conditional use permit on July 16th of 2013 and is currently developed. The property is currently developed for that purpose. That CUP expired July 16th of 2023. During the public notice process, we mailed out 149 notices on March 8th of 24 to owners of property within 1/2 mile of the subject property. Frontiersman published the public hearing notice on March 8th of the same year. Staff posted the application material on the borough's website in February of this year, and staff emailed the public notice, the application material, and a request for comments to internal borough and outside agencies on February 22nd of 2024. The property lies within Buffalo Mine, Soapstone Community Council areas, but that community council is currently inactive. PC Resolution 24-04 can be found on page 220 of your packets. So staff recommends approving the conditional use permit to operate the earth material extraction facility, considering the possible negative impacts and to ensure compliance for long-term operations. Staff recommends that the extraction operation be limited to 20 years, and then after which the operation can request an additional conditional use permit. With the recommended conditions of approval, the operation meets all the applicable standards of MSB 1728 and MSB 17.30. The site plan is located on page 109 of your packet, and I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
I have a quick question. This is Commissioner Allen. So the site has been used for this purpose continuously for the past 10 years?
Yes.
And any health or safety concerns in that 10 years that you're aware of?
No complaints, no.
Okay, thank you.
Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Commissioner McCabe, why are we contemplating 20 years as opposed to the 10 in the original?
So the area is developing, but it's slower than some of the other areas of the borough. And in order to have that consistency for the business, instead of having to stop every 10 years and going through this process, which can be quite lengthy, staff suggested 20 years. And the other reason is this property is got a lot of the moraines on it, and the end use of this property is for residential purposes. And until they remove a lot of those hills, this property probably wouldn't be developed into residential units.
Okay. We have any other questions? About how long is this process for them to go through? I imagine it's a rather grueling one.
So we started on this in, going through the old comments here, the old correspondence.
If I may, this is Jason Ortiz, Development
Yeah.
Services Manager.
May.
Mr. Chair, every process is different. Peggy could probably give you the exact one on this one. We absolutely can get you the exact dates, but every process is different. So that's going to kind of go into when we talk about our training, but conditional use permit processes, if we have a complete application and we get it and there's nothing pending before, it could be like a 10-week process from start to finish. Never happens that way because we have to have a 100% complete application. So it's kind of going back and forth. We need this information. Sometimes there's surveyor information needed. You know, we're waiting on other places. So there is not a set definitive timeline for a conditional use permit. But if everyone had 100% duck in a row and handed us a complete application, it could be a quicker process.
Sure.
But I don't know if Ms. Horton has the date that they started.
Yeah, this one, we started communications with Mr. Baxter around May of '23. So
Okay.
we're just about a year in.
Sure. Yeah, just, main reason for the question is, when we're talking about going from 10 years to 20 years, you know, how long does that process actually take? And from the sounds of it, you know, a year-long process almost, so that's, pretty significant amount of time, so.
It can be,
understandable.
yes. There's some requirements that they have to connect with some state agencies, and many times that's not done until we notify them that that's several of the requirements, so.
Okay, thank you.
I have another question.
Is this for staff?
No, it's for staff.
Okay.
I was just curious if the conditional use permit is transferable if they were to sell the property?
Through the chair, they don't even have to sell the property. If another operator comes in and wants to do it, it is transferable. It runs with the land, as most conditional use permits do.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite Jim Baxter, if you have anything to add or any questions. You may have a seat at the table here.
Yeah, my name is Jim Baxter, and my son, Robert Baxter. One of the main reasons of us asking for the 60 years, prior to this, when we done the 10-year conditional use permit, back when we done this, and we have actually won through our appeals, they told us that we actually should have applied for an IMD. But now, with the Matsu Borough, an IMD is no longer available, and you know, until this property is, you know, leveled down. That's why we asked for the 60 years, because I figured it'll take 60 years to level this property down. And if we got to come back in here in 10 years again, or 20 years again, every 10 years we've got to go through this, we're still under the same, you know, regulations that we are if it's 10 or 20 or 60 years to get this leveled out. So if an IMD was available, still, I'd be applying for that. And when I talked to them about applying for this, I asked, was there any, you know, regulation on how long you could apply for it? They said, no, there was no regulation. However, how long do you think it's going to take to get the property cleared? And from our previous amounts of time, the materials were taken out. Of course, it's all, you know, demand-driven on contracts and use and stuff of what we're taking out of there. You know, we could go, you know, you could go several years and not take anything out, hardly take anything out if you don't have the sales for the material. So that's why we're asking for the 60 years versus, you know, the staff's recommendation of 20 years, because we're going to have to go through this very same process again in 20 years or 10 years, whatever approved at. And the other part of it was, and we got our permit last time, they didn't it started from the time that we applied for it. That's when it started. And we went through the whole of the process of it, and the appeals process. And it wasn't, the permit didn't start from the time that we actually were approved for it. It started from the time that we applied for it. So if that's the case the Mat-Su Borough does, in this case, our permit's already a year old now when we were applying for it now. So I think that needs to be addressed as well, because if you lose a year of time for applying for these conditional use permits, it should be retroactive to the time that it's approved, not from the time that you applied for it. If there's anything you wanted to add, if there's any questions, why we
Okay.
have to answer them.
Any questions for the applicant?
Just a comment. My question about 10 years was based on my total inexperience in that realm. So I get now why you would ask for 60 years. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, go ahead, staff.
The permits now become effective at the time that the Planning Commission approves the permit, not on the application date any longer.
That was the case 10 years ago.
Yeah, could you clarify that again?
Yes, sir. Through the chair, the permit becomes effective on the date that the Planning Commission approves the resolution. The very next day, Alex signs the permit and we send it out. And so that's the day of the start of the permit. I'm not aware of the other processes that have happened before me, but that's how we do conditional use permits at this time.
Okay, thank you.
So as this is written right now, we would need to change this to 20 years, or is this the way it's written?
So staff wrote it with 20 years in mind, but if the Planning Commission wishes to amend that, we can find those locations in the resolution to do that.
Okay. All right, at this,
Mr. Chairman, I mean.
Yep, sorry.
I'm looking at, this is Commissioner Allen, but I'm looking at 2404, which is in front of us, and it says 60 years.
I was seeing the same thing. It's-
That's on me. I apologize for that.
Okay,
That
so
was-
we
that
would
was-
need to make
that-
an amendment in order
to make
to
it
have this
20
comply
years.
with the staff recommended 20 years, or to whatever the planning commission decided on.
Correct,
So-
yeah.
Okay,
I apologize for that. That was my mistake.
okay.
Mr. Chair, just a clarification, Corin Lynn, For's Assistant Clerk. Ms. Horton, I do believe that in the resolution that you have drafted for preparation, it does say 20 years. I think that's a clerical error in the one that got posted on the website with the 60. I do believe you wrote it as 20. Clerical error on my part, thank you.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Go ahead.
There's a lot of, Commissioner Fernandez here, a lot of really good examples of accountability and personal responsibility, so I appreciate that between staff. I was curious, if I may, Peggy, Ms. Horton, you may have already answered this and I may have missed it, but what was the justification for a 20-year term rather than the 60-year that they requested? I know why we're not doing 10 again, but wanted to make sure I was clear on that.
Sorry, through the chair. Since it seems like we might want a little more context here, I'm going to read what I wrote in the staff report. On page 7 of 15. So the purpose of the earth material extraction and conditional use permit is to strike a balance between promoting public health, safety, order, prosperity, and general welfare while allowing for resource extraction. Extraction's possible negative impacts include dust, reduced air quality, vibration, noise pollution, traffic and road safety issues, and decreased property values. The extraction of gravel on this property has the potential to provide economic benefits through the creation of job opportunities and the supply of construction materials. It will also produce a level surface for continued residential development in the area. But to address those possible negative impacts and to ensure compliance, because the code may not be the same code 20 years from now. There may have been amendments done based on input from the public, from agencies in the know, safety things that have come up. And so in order to address those, we would have to have them come back for a conditional use permit. And if we allow them to continue for 60 years without that, we could have some impacts on that. Also, we don't know what the level of development is going to be like in that area. We don't know where it's going to go from year to year. But this one is a bit slower than other areas in the borough. And so that's why we suggested 20 years would probably be a good time for them to come back for a conditional use permit. So those are the reasons.
Thank you, Ms. Horton.
Okay. Any other questions for staff or for the applicant?
Just a quick one, sir. This is Commissioner Allen. So just to clarify, though, I mean, I understand what you're saying about if there are changes in procedure that you would need to bring them back before 6 years for that. But still, the borough would be monitoring compliance of the conditions that they've agreed to, right? And if there were some sort of health or safety violation that was of concern, there would be redress for that, correct?
This is Jason Ortiz, Development Services Manager. I'll go ahead and take this since I oversee code compliance. So we're not proactive doing that at this time right now. It's something the borough would, code compliance would like to do, is to be proactive in monitoring conditional use permits. It's on our goals list, but it's not something we do right now. So the only time we're going to do anything is if we receive a complaint, then we would be following up with that at this point.
Sure, but so if you were to receive a complaint, though, there is redress by the borough, right, to correct violations of code, right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So what I think I heard you say is that we could have them come back for a new CUP within that 60 years if you approve 60 years. That's not true.
No, that's not what I meant.
Okay.
I just meant if there were reasons to believe there were violations happening within the 60-year time, there would be avenues for the borough to react.
Yes, as long as they were, as long as they were in the conditional use permit, those items were in the conditional use permit, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, I have another question.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, just curious about the owner on the northern property who signed a statement indicating his approval of drainage onto his property. What happens in the event that he retracts his permission or somebody buys the property?
Well, the conditional use permit has that caveat that it drains onto the neighboring parcel. And so I would imagine that's a disclosure that the person would have to make to the new owner, or they could negotiate with the owner of the gravel pit to not allow that drainage to go on there any longer.
Yeah, I was just curious if it was binding.
We don't make binding real estate decisions here, except for a conditional use permit on a piece of property.
Through the chair.
Yeah, if everyone could, just a quick reminder, I got a kick to the knee here. If Commissioner Shane here would like everyone to make sure to state your name before speaking for the record. Thank you. But go ahead.
Thank you. Commissioner Fernandez here. And my question's for the applicants. Having heard the perspective of staff, I'm curious from your perspective, what level of disruption does reapplying for a CUP do to your business and to your ability to operate normally, outside of additional time and energy, of course?
Well, outside conditional time, it's only time. If they change, the borough changes their regulations, the rules and regulations, in that meantime, if there was an IDM program still here in the Mat-Su Borough, that's what I'd be applying for. And then that doesn't mean that the borough still doesn't have regulation over what you can do. An example is right down the road here, you have Anchorage sand and gravel and you have granite. You have massive pits, and those are under an IDM. You have quality sand and gravel, which is under an IDM, but they are still licensed. They have a pit license number with the Mat-Su Borough. They have to follow the same regulations that we do under a conditional use permit, because if they get complaints, the borough has to go out and assess those as well. So if there was an IDM program still in the borough, I'd applied for that, but it's not available to me. So I'm looking at how long is it going to take me to, liquidate the gravel that's on this pit. We also own the gravel pit next to us, the 80 acres next to us. I don't know if we'll ever, in that 60 years, get to that 80 acres, which it has a permit on it. In the meantime, I'm going to have to reapply for a CUP permit for that as well, because I'm not exactly sure. I think that one's for 20 years when that one was done. So that's, the problem is, it's a family business. It's me and my sons that work this. And in 20 years, I'm probably going to be at an age that maybe I don't want to reapply for it again. My sons are in their 30s. So if it's for 60 years, they may never see it dug out completely. My grandkids will probably be the ones that see it dug out. So that's why I'd like it for 60 years, because if we're in violation, whether it's 20 years or 60 years, if we're in violation, the Mat-Su Borough is going to come out and assess it. And if we're in violation, they're going to fine us, if it's 10 years. They're the ones who they're wanting to keep that control over it. So I just don't need to come back here every 10 or 20 years to revisit this. The last one was for 10 years. Had I known what I do now, I'd done the IDM and I wouldn't be in here.
Thank you, sir. That's all.
Through the chair, Commissioner Glenn, how much, what do you estimate the cost for you guys to get through the permitting?
I done this myself. If I had it done by someone else besides me, I've had other people tell me they've hired companies to do this, and it's cost them about $150,000 to $175,000 to do the processing, the permit processing.
And okay, I appreciate that. So it's pretty significant.
It's
so.
expensive and it's time consuming.
Yes.
We started this about this time last year, and we've been without a permit for now almost a year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions or comments for staff or for the applicant? All right. Let's see. Mr. Ortiz, did you have something you were going to clarify for our planning commission here?
Yeah, this is Jason Ortiz, Development Services Manager. I just wanted to make sure before the chair asks for a vote or anything that staff did recognize that there's a clerical error on what was published. So what was published said 60 years. It should have said 20 years to match the resolution. So what you would be voting on is going to be with what the resolution says. That's what you guys would be voting on. I just want to make sure that we're clear on that because it is a clerical error.
Okay. All right, at this time, we'll open public hearing on Resolution 24-04. If anyone on the phone wishes to speak, please press star 3. Do we have anyone on the phone? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this issue? Okay. And if I could have you, on the sign-in sheet, and then state your name and spell your last name for the record, sir.
Hello. Sorry, first time using the microphone. My name is Evan Langston. My wife and I just bought property on Wilderness Lane, which is about half a mile away from property where y'all will be doing your gravel pit. I put comments in when I first got the notice that this was going to be done. And if you don't mind, I'd just like to read my comments that I have because I'd like to add to them if that's okay. Give me one moment. Oh, look at that. Okay, excuse me. My wife and I are currently in the process of building our home at 13880 Wilderness Lane, Palmer, Alaska. We purchased this 5-acre lot of land in 2023, mainly due to its secluded and quiet location. I received notice today via mail regarding the hearing concerning the application for a conditional use permit for earth materials extraction made by Jim Baxter of Northern Gravel and Trucking, parcel located at 9002 North Buffalo Mine Road. Unfortunately, I will be unable to attend the hearing. Here I am. I flew from Texas to come to this hearing. My wife and I have been building this property. It's been taking us about 2 years, so we're almost done, and I had a lot to do, and I wanted to come talk to you because I'd like to add to this. My main concern, should this permit be granted, is noise pollution. The 40-acre parcel in which the extraction will occur is 2 minutes down the road from the property we are currently building our home on. Extracting 40,000 cubic yards of earth materials every year sounds like it will require a constant amount of heavy machinery, which will obviously be creating a ton of noise in an otherwise quiet area. With our home only a few months away from being completed, I would be devastated to learn that the quiet dream home in the woods I've been building right now next door to the quiet dream home in the woods I've been building is now next to a massive amount of constant heavy machinery in operation. I believe granting this permit would cause an obscene amount of noise pollution, as well as an unnecessary amount of added traffic up and down Buffalo Mine Road. If you are able to provide me with any additional information regarding this matter, I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, these are my original comments. As soon as I sent them to Peggy, she immediately gave me all of these scientific formulas that you have that explain and mitigate all of the noise pollution that he's going to be doing. Now that I know that it's only these two, and now that I read the entire thing, I'd like to throw this out. I'm absolutely 100% on board with what they're doing, and I think it should be granted. They've got a business that they're running. If you're interrupting them every 10 years and they're saying it's going to take 60 years, it's really going to take a long time for them to finish what they're doing. Obviously, I don't want to see that area developed in the next 5-10 years, but if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And if they applied for this 10 years ago and it was approved and they're applying now, I think they should be able to continue doing what they're doing. And with the information that I was given, that they provided, I am 100% confident that there will not be any noise pollution because they've already mitigated those. They've already built berms to cancel that out. I was up there all day today. I know you guys were up there because I saw it. I did not hear
Sir,
a
you're
thing.
about out of time. If you have anything left, you can finish up real quick.
That's
but
all I wanted to say is I think it should be approved. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, any other comments from the audience? Okay. So seeing as there's no other persons to be heard, is there any objection to closing public hearing? All right, public hearing is closed. Ms. Horton, do you have any other response to comments?
Oh, thank you, sir.
All right. I will now entertain a motion for Resolution 24-04.
Commissioner Glenn, I'll make a motion for 24-04.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Allen. I'd like to offer an amendment. I'd like to offer an amendment that the,
We're getting to that. We'll have to, I believe, go through the motion, and then an amendment can be
fair
made
enough.
after
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Commissioner McCabe, I would like to second the motion.
Okay. At this time, we can discuss any amendments. Commissioner Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just move to amend the current resolution, the duration from 20 years to 60 years.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Glenn, I'll second that.
All right. So that will move us to a vote. We will be moving it from 20 years to 60 years. So, Madam Clerk, do you call the vote, or do I? Sorry. Okay. We'll go ahead and call the vote. So this will be to move this from 20 years to 60 years. Commissioner Glenn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Allen.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
No.
Okay. This is Commissioner Shane. I'm voting yes.
The amendment carries with Commissioner Fernandez, the only person in opposition.
Okay. Is there any discussion, further discussion? All right. Any objections? Okay. So if there are none, excuse me, no objections, then the resolution 2404 passes. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We're moving on now to resolution 24-06. Make sure I have that right.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, if I may, Commissioner Fernandez here. I believe that we approved an amendment to the resolution, but I don't believe we actually voted on the resolution at hand.
I apologize for that. You're correct. So that was on the amendment. So we will move to a vote to pass the resolution. Commissioner Glenn?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes.
All right. And Commissioner Shane, I vote yes as well.
The amended resolution has been approved. All commissioners voted yes.
Okay, with that, the resolution 24-04 passes. All right, moving on to resolution 24-06, a conditional use permit in accordance with MSB 17-0.30. Conditional uses permit for earth materials extraction activities for the extraction of up to 40,000 cubic yards of riprap and screened materials annually through 2044. Blasting activities occur at this facility. The quarry is located within the east half of a 20-acre parcel located at 16556 East Back Acres Avenue. Tax ID is pound 17N02E23A017. The applicant is Jim, I'm going to butcher this, Pisenic. Thank you. Staff is Peggy Horton, current planner. At this time, we'll go through the ex parte. Do you or any member of your immediate family have a substantial financial interest in or in any property affected by this decision, or will you recognize a foreseeable profit as a result of this decision?
Commissioner Glenn, I have a conflict here. My wife owns a third of that property.
Okay. We'll continue to question 2. Have you received or otherwise engaged in ex parte contact with the applicant, appellant, other interested parties, or members of the public concerning the application, either before, during, or after this matter was submitted for decision? All right. And question 3, are you able to be impartial in this decision? Okay. Commissioner Glenn has said no, so. Okay. So at this time, Commissioner Glenn, if you wouldn't mind stepping out.
Mr. Ortiz, do we still have a necessary quorum with the recusal of?
Yes, we do. This is Jason
Glenn?
Ortiz. We have
Okay.
4 members here, so we do still have a quorum.
Go ahead.
I'd like to discuss this with my client, because if we don't get unanimous approval, then he's denied. So I'd just like to talk with my client for just a second.
Okay.
That's okay.
How about we propose a 5-minute recess?
Great.
Would somebody be able to make a motion for a 5-minute recess? Or do we need to make a motion? No. Okay. We'll adjourn for a 5-minute recess
Thank you very much.
at, 6:47. Okay, this is Commissioner Shane. We are going to resume at 6:52, and Commissioner Glenn has recused himself from this hearing. Let's see here. So at this time, Peggy Horton, we invite you to proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my pleasure to provide the commission with an overview of this proposed conditional use permit. The staff report for this resolution 24-06 can be found starting on page 283 of your packets. Jim Pasenik of Pasenik Construction LLC submitted a conditional use permit application for earth material extraction on this property. The Planning Commission issued a conditional use permit for this property that expired in 2013, and that permit expired in August of last year. So this property has also been developed as a rock quarry and processing material, earth material extraction activity. So for this public notice, we mailed out 129 notices to owners of property within 1/2 mile and to the Butte Community Council. The Frontiersman published the notice on March 8th of 2024. The staff posted the application on the borough's website in February of 2024, and we emailed the public notice, the application material, and a request for comments to the Butte Community Council and various agencies in February of 2024. Butte Community Council did not submit any comments. There are 4 handouts for this CUP you should have. 3 of those are comments from the public, and one of those handouts contains 2 pictures of a test hole dug on the property to assess the depth of the seasonal high water table. So I'll discuss that, the test hole pictures. So with that handout confirming that the test hole was dug, and it also confirms that there is no water 4 feet from the ground level, then staff recommends condition of approval number 1 on of the resolution on page 517 be removed, as that has been complied with. So whoever's going to make a motion, maybe put that on in your hat.
Excuse me, Ms. Horton?
Yes.
Assistant Clerk Corinne Linforce, for clarification for the commissioners, you have 2 handouts in your packet. The one with the photos is going to be in the orange. It is a compiled ones. Those are the ones where she's referring to. Thank you.
And we did receive comments from the public. I can go through those individually if you'd like, or if you have questions, I can answer them then. But for this resolution, Borough recommends approval with the remaining conditions outlined in Resolution 24-06 to operate a conditional use permit to extract 400,000 cubic yards of riprap and processed material on the eastern portion of that 20-acre parcel. And that draft resolution containing these recommendations can be found in your packet starting on page 506. And this is forgive me for just one moment.
Ms. Horton, while you're going through your things, I'm going to go ahead and invite the applicant, Mr. Jim Pasenik, if you'd like to take a seat over on the left-hand side there.
Staff is also recommending that this be a 20-year permit. This area is more densely populated than the other area is. There's a lot more traffic. Of course, it's Old Glen Highway is the way out. And so for the same and for these reasons, staff recommends 20 years. I'm done.
Okay. Do we have any questions for staff? Okay.
Through the chair.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Fernandez here. Just curious, was the application originally requesting 20 years, or are they going off of the recommendations of staff as well?
I believe it was for 20 years. I'd have to look. Yes, the last year of extraction is expected to be 2044 in their application.
Thank you.
Okay, and at this time, I would like to invite Jim if you have any other comments you'd like to add or any questions.
My name is Jim Pesenik. It's Jim, P-S-E-N-A-K. I originally started this quarry in 2004 for the Circleview Dikes repair. And then we left in 2007. It became a different operator that went in, and they applied for the conditional use permit in 2013. That was approved through the 23 year. So we accepted that application, or that conditional use permit at that time. We worked underneath that permit. The application was supposed to expire in August of last year. We applied in May of last year to start the process to get it through. You can't renew them now. You have to apply for a whole new one. So Peggy has all the application paperwork, everything that was approved through the borough. We have complied with everything that any of the residents, we have no real problems with any of the residents around there. They don't, I mean, little things here and there, you know, somebody says, you know, I'd like to make sure that you blast only through certain times, and we try to always blast from about 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock, somewheres in that range, to make sure that the people are at work, there's no extra noise going on, that, you know, we don't put a conflict on anything for the people in the area. The road we actually are hauling this material that we're making right now to the Parks Highway bridges that we're doing up on the Parks, Goose Creek, Sheep Creek, and Montana Creek. So our trucks only go out, it's a 3-hour round trip. Very minimal truck traffic on the roads. We don't have very much traffic on the Old Glen. The amount of traffic that's on Backacres Road is minimal. Everybody is congenial about there, not having, you know, trying to run you off the road or anything about this. The situation that's out there now, it seems to be fitting for everybody. It's also the only rock quarry that is in the Matsu borough, or not in the borough, but in the valley itself. You're also going to have the Circleview dikes that are being redesigned right now that are going to need to have material. Either if it doesn't come from there, it's going to come from someplace out of the area. I don't see, personally, since we've been there for this long a period of time, we got a good rapport with all the people around there. If they had a problem, they would have come to us and told us. And if there is something, we take care of it. We don't have any desire to irritate the public around there. I mean, that doesn't do anybody any good.
Okay. Do we have any questions for staff or the applicants at this time? All right, hearing and seeing none. At this time, I'd invite those who would like to speak. Excuse me here. So we'll move to audience participation for resolution 24-06, and we do have a sign-up sheet. So I believe Margaret, Runser? You'd like to speak?
This is really not my kind of thing. The original permit was slipped in without notifying any residents some years ago. I'm a 37-year resident of the area. We moved there because we wanted it quiet and.
Margaret, if I could have you just state your name for the record,
My name
please.
is Margaret Runser. And what else do I do? I need
You could
coached.
spell your last name.
Runser.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And she showed me a list of all the people notified, but I know many of those people were not notified, or they claimed they were not notified. I'm concerned for my own well and foundation of my house and the septics. I'm close through the woods, through the less than about a half a mile. And I'm also very concerned, that's that kind of terrain that we're sitting on. We're all on old riverbed, and it's hard on foundations and on wells, and especially foundations like mine. And also the blasting and loud noise, it has a very negative effect on horses and livestock. I've had them up, and I don't have them right now, but my neighbors all have. There are people in the area who are prone to seizures. I know several. And seizures are, they can be caused, or they can be stimulated, and people can go into a seizure state because of loud blasting. I know of quite a few people in the area who are healthcare workers and in a critical kind of way, such as anesthesia, and they're called to work at night, need to sleep at days, and are very close, across the woods from this area. And also the dust factor. We're in the Connect River. Actually, where he is, he's at a connection of the Matanuska, where the Matanuska wind kind of cuts off and the Connect River runs in. But the dust in the area is very detrimental to many people with health problems. I am concerned about the present and increased truck traffic on that highway. We have too many big trucks on that old Glen Highway, and it's not handling it very well. And that intersection is not a safe intersection because the residential area across the highway, those farms are subdividing, and there's a lot of traffic coming out, around the West Butte and there's also, there's just too much traffic of big trucks on that road. And it's primarily the health factors and the noise factor and the fact that we weren't really properly notified previously when they started the first gravel pit. And
Ms. Runser, I just want to let you know you're.
Area.
All righty. Thank you. Next up, we have Chris, is that Houcher? Houcher. Go ahead. If you could state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Yeah, Chris Houchin, it's H-O-U-C.
If you could, when you say it, speak into the mic.
H-O-U-C-H-E-N, last name.
All right.
Yeah, I'm Margaret's neighbor. We've never got any notification about this going on. I've never seen any boundaries where any of this stuff is gonna be done, and I'd like to see some blueprints and, see what's going on here, and I've got 15 acres out there, and I just want to see how close it's going to come to bordering my property, and the same thing, issues. I moved out there because I like the peace and quiet, and I'm really not excited about hearing a bunch of blasting going on behind my house. So if I could see some of the blueprints and some of the diagrams of where this is all going to be held, I'd sure appreciate it.
Okay. They are posted on public record as well on the website, but
Okay, we'll dig them out.
Yep.
Take this with me. Okay. All right, that's all I've got, but I just got concerns, and I do like living in the Butte, and it's peaceful and quiet, and the reason I've been out there for 22 years, so. Okay,
okay.
thanks.
Thank you, sir. Next up, Jim Baxter. We have a Jim Baxter.
He was with your first guy.
Okay, we'll try and call him later. We have a Nick Baxter. Okay, do we have a Jim Hunt?
My name is James Hunt, H-U-N-T, and I'm sorry for the late letter that I sent into the office, as I was out of state during the time. I just received it a week ago, or I certainly would have put all my thoughts in, so that could have been included in possibly included in a staff report. But to go over it quickly, I've continuously lived in the Butte for 28 years at the same address. I own a total of 45 acres near this conditional use permit area. I recently retired, and most of my time is spent on my residence and the surrounding acreage. I was sincerely hoping to spend the rest of my life finally being able to enjoy the beautiful area surrounding my home and its unique serenity. The proposed conditional use permit has me questioning the viability of enjoying the peace and quiet that I've been expecting in retirement, and the possible financial impacts that it may have on my property value should I ever need to sell in order to support me and my wife as we age. I am most concerned about the level of noise that may be produced by the approval of this permit. My property is especially impacted by noise, as almost all of it is on high ground on a ledge on the side of the butte. We are above all the surrounding trees that are mentioned as noise mitigation areas. So all those trees really don't mitigate any noise for us. None of them, the extraction activities will be blocked. Sound also travels upward and out, not just laterally, and will be directly heard at my house and on my property. If not mitigated to the utmost extent, me and other homeowners like me will not be able to enjoy the homes that we've worked so hard to pay for and expect to be able to fully enjoy. I'm proposing the following ideas to be considered as part of a final approval of the project, should you proceed to approve it. Number one, no rock crushing is allowed on the site. None was mentioned in the application, and if approval moves forward, the conditions of the permit should specifically state no rock crushing. It's bad enough having blasting intermittently, but when you have rock crushing going on continually, minute by minute, day after day, it just wears on your nerves, and it defeats the purpose of working all these years to have these acreage around where I have quiet. Reduce the blasting to a predetermined 3 to 4 days a week. This would allow area homeowners to have 3 to 4 days a week of much less noise and be able to plan activities outside accordingly with their families without have this background noise all the time in one of the most beautiful areas of the valley. The last mention is, it appears that there are noise I didn't see from the maps, and I looked on the website and I looked at all the materials, but it didn't appear that there's no noise buffers to help attenuate the noise produced by blasting in the extreme southwest portions of phase 2 and 3. This most directly impacts me and other homeowners. Please have this problem clarified or that area removed from the approval area. And I just might not be seeing everything, and I'm sure that it could be clarified to the extreme southwest corners, 2 and 3. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Let's see, I am having difficulty reading this last name here. Is it Joshua Hunt? Joanne? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and call up, do we have Jim Baxter back in? They did, okay. So I apologize, I'm not able to read this name here. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak? Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Amy Bleakney, Bleakney.
Okay.
And I own property at the.
One second. If you could write your name on the sheet there, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi. And I own property near this, right on the other side, so probably you could throw a rock. I mean, we walk our dogs over there all the time. Used to ride my horses over there all the time. I have built a house up on the hill, which means I'm sitting on the rocks that you're blowing
Sorry,
up.
could we pause time for a sec? If there's any other conversations, if you would be able to either take them outside or keep them quieter, please, while they're speaking. Thank you.
Yeah, so my concern is the foundation of my home. I built $1 million home up on the hill, and these guys are blasting the rock out from underneath me. They haven't got there yet, so I guess, and honestly, I can't say specifically that they're gonna end up there, because they're just now schooling us on where the property lines are, because we weren't notified. I just happened to hear through the grapevine, 3 days ago? So it's kind of a big deal. So, well, when you make that kind of an investment in your home, you don't really want to have that happen to it. I mean, I think all you can understand that. So, it's a big concern of mine, especially since they're blasting a lot, because they're blasting rock. They're not, like Margaret was talking about the gravel, where most of the houses are down on like the river gravel. I'm not, I'm up on top of the hill, which the hill is the rock that they are actually blasting into the side of. And my property is over here, and the gravel pit is right here. So it's way too close for comfort. And I don't know how far those cracks go in foundation when they dynamite it, but I don't really want to find out. So anyway, I think that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have anyone else in the audience who would like to speak? Do we have anyone on the phone? All right. All right, so hearing and seeing none, if there's, unless there is any objection to closing the public hearing is closed. Ms. Horton, do you have any response to the comments?
No, sir, not really. If you'd like me to, I have responses created for the ones that were in the handouts and in the staff report. I don't have any responses to these.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Jason Ortiz, Development Services Manager. Ms. Horton, did you want to respond to how you came about the decision of the particular berms and the layout of that pit and what it looks like and how you came about after site visits and stuff like that?
Sure. The site plan was confusing to me, and I had a meeting or two with Mr. Pasenik and tried to understand. I am not a gravel pit operator, and so it was confusing to me. I wasn't able to grasp what the the operation was just by looking at it on a piece of paper, on a two-dimensional. So I suggested we go out, and we did, and just eye-opening. So the face of the pit, the northern face of the granite rock is what they are taking down. So they blast and from my understanding and what the application says, the blasts are smaller than what you would think, because what they want are these great big rocks. So they blast small, so they don't get a lot of little rocks, they get a few big rocks. And so, and the noise from that, I'm not saying the vibration, but the noise is blocked to Mr. Hunt's property by that granite hill. Now, it's mitigated. I can't say it's totally gone from anyone, especially the properties to the north of this, because they're working on the north face. When they get up to that taller portion, there may be some noise that is not mitigated because they're up higher than the surrounding properties. But they are required to provide noise berms at that point. And so that's one of the requirements in the code, is that you provide those noise berms. And the only thing you can do is berms, because that's the thing that mitigates the noise the best. And so they have to provide the noise berms when they get to the point where they're open around them and they're at the top of the hill. If they get to that point, they may be just pulling from the face. But anyway, that's what we found out. And I was satisfied with the information provided in the application interpreted on the site plan at that time. And then I could say, oh, okay, now I understand, and now I can explain it in the staff report and in the findings. So.
Okay. I will now entertain a motion for Resolution 24-06.
Commissioner McCabe, I'll move Resolution 24-06.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussions for any amendments? Okay, no amendments. So,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
could someone remove condition number 1 from page?
Page 13 on the staff recommendation.
Right.
Page 297 in the packet.
Page 517 in your packet. Condition of approval recommendation number 1 should be removed as the evidence has been provided for the groundwater depth greater than 4 feet. So it would be condition number 1 on the resolution, which is on page 517 of your packet.
I apologize, that was page 517 in,
In the whole packet,
yep.
yeah. I hope I'm right. Yes.
Mr. Chair, it's on the screen.
Prior to operation, yes.
Okay. Are we gonna need to do an amendment for that, or can we? You wanna clarify that for us?
Commissioner McCabe, on 517, I move that we strike item number 1 from the requirements on page 517 of the packet, which required the outcome of the test hole excavation.
Okay. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second that as well.
Okay. So I believe that leaves us to just Commissioner Allen to vote on that.
Oh,
Or discussion, excuse me, I'm sorry. We moved to discussion on that. Is there any discussion on that amendment? Okay, no discussion, so we'll go ahead.
No
and-
discussion, just clarification, restating what staff Peggy Horton explained to us earlier. The pictures of the test hole are in our handout that we received when we came tonight, showing that the pictures indicate that the water table is below the required level.
Right, okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move to a vote on the amendment. Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The amendment passes. Okay. All right, so we are back to the original resolution, motion. Is there any other further discussion?
Through the chair. I do have a couple of, Commissioner Fernandez here, I do have a couple of questions for the petitioner and then one for staff, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Pasenik, about how long have you been operating this site as a gravel pit?
It's not a gravel pit. It's not a gravel pit, it's a rock quarry.
Okay.
It's not producing small public use types of product. And it had started out originally 2004, I think it was the original site. We left it in 2007 when the original owner died and started into who was going to run it and how it worked out. We returned again in 2021, I think it was, is we went back into it again, and we've been doing the same thing since at that period. We had followed the rules of the original conditional use permit, which was the application in 2013.
And then a follow-up question, do you plan on changing the daily operations in any way? More blasts, less blasts?
No, at this point right now, we are likely going to be done before this fall with all of the product that has to go to the bridges up on the Parks Highway. Then it is an as needed basis. You know, if the Circle View dikes come out in the next year or so, you know, there may be material that can go to that if you're the low bidder on it. Otherwise, this is not a continuation gravel pit that operates 5 days a week, 8 to 5. We are restricted at a 7 o'clock in the morning till I think it's 7 o'clock at night now because of I try to do as much in the summer as possible, and so we get the daylight. We won't increase. We don't operate on Sundays out there. We have once or twice had to shoot on a Saturday, and that was particularly because we didn't get the holes down on Friday. We bought another new drill that is quiet. You can't even hear it drilling up there. The blasting is we have cut back from 10, 15 hole blast down to 6 or 8 holes. It just lifts and bumps and drops. We don't throw rock. We don't, try to make a mess of anything because it doesn't gain anybody any ground on this thing. If people that after we're going along with this thing, if it's approved, somebody comes to us and says that they'd like to see this or that, that's fine with us, if it helps everybody else around there. But I do know that the area that this is all on, this property size, I'm not sure about this lady that said that she built this new $1 million house. She can't be anywhere near that property, and we won't be blasting anywhere near her property. She is, I'm not sure where it's even at in there, but we can't go outside the parameters of that property footprint. So that property footprint is on, I think, all of the packet listings. You know, I mean, it must be, I think that was a 20-acre piece there. And that's as far as it's gonna go. There will be nothing else done for us outside of that area.
Thank you, Mr. Pasenik. And then Ms. Horton, if I may, or Mr. Ortiz, perhaps. I'm curious if over the last 3 years that this quarry has been in operation, if we have any official complaints that have been lodged by any member of the public? Not a single one?
It's Jason Ortiz, Development Services Manager. I'm not familiar. It looks like Ms. Horton is shaking her head as well.
None that, I looked and I couldn't find any.
Okay.
And the code enforcement officer told me the same thing.
Yeah.
None have been formalized.
Okay. And the only reason I ask the questions that I have is just to get clarification. If nothing is going to be increased by way of activity, and the site has been operating over the last 3 years without a single complaint formally lodged with the borough, I'd be voting favorably for this. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion or questions? Okay. Any objection? All right, no objection on the resolution. So we will take a vote at this time on resolution 24-06. Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Yes.
and Commissioner Shane votes yes.
The resolution passes, all present commissioners in favor.
All right, resolution 24-06 passes. Okay. At this time, we'll, now that we've completed that business, we can invite Commissioner Glenn to come back. Time is 7:30. You're dismissed. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll move on to, let's see, we have public hearing legislative matters. There's none there. Correspondence and information, there is a letter in your packet. And then moving on to unfinished business, we have none. New business, I'm showing none. Commission business. Jason, would you like to speak?
Yes, Jason Ortiz, Development Services Manager. So you guys received the upcoming Planning Commission agenda items in your packet. There's nothing that we haven't already discussed, but that's on, if you guys have any questions about it, you can take a look and see what we're about to review towards the end of your packet. It's in there. The other thing we wanted to talk about is Planning Commission special meeting. So we do need to reschedule that. It was canceled because we were given some advice from our legal department that we shouldn't have it on the same day that we're hearing a conditional use permit. Right now, we've identified a day. It looks like June 3rd is a regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting. There's only an introduction, and there are not any CUPs that are being heard. So unless there's any objection, we'd like to schedule it for then. The only question is, do we want to start it just a tad bit earlier, or do you guys want to keep it at 6 p.m.? So kind of see what you guys would like to do. It would be June 3rd.
June 3rd.
Monday, June 3rd.
It's getting into a tough time of year for me, but we can try.
We can set this at any time. If you guys like to set it later or do a special date. I know Chair Cohen was kind of really wanting this training and wanting it sooner, and we would have liked to have already provided this training, but we had that conflict, so.
Sure.
Whatever you guys would like to do, I just giving you the date. We can set it June 3rd. We could also have a special day. If you guys want to come in another day, because you love driving to visit us, we can do another day training, so whatever one you guys want to do. Up to you guys.
I believe the original one, we were going to meet an hour or two earlier. Is that correct?
That is correct. The original meeting was scheduled today at 4 p.m.
Right.
And then we were going to do the training from 4 to 6. Public is invited. There's going to be some refreshments for you guys, and then go into the regularly scheduled meeting at 6, which would be just introduction read, because we have no hearings. I don't believe we have any CUPs, I should say.
Okay. Any discussion on that from the commissioners? Would there be any, oh, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, this Commissioner Allen, my preference would be that we do the training on the same day as a regular scheduled meeting, so whether we come in an hour early or whatever. I'm coaching baseball this summer. I know we're all super busy. If we've already set aside that night to do this business, I'd prefer to do it all at once.
Okay.
So does Monday, June 3rd, regularly scheduled meeting at 4 p.m. work for all you guys, or do you want to come in at 4:30? Try to do 4:30 to 5:30 and wrap it up in an hour, or hour? 4:30? All right, 4:30 it is, June 3rd. At 4:30, we will do the training from, say, 4:30 to 5:45. We could break for 15 and then start our regularly scheduled at 6.
Okay. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Looks like that moves us on to commissioner comments. Commissioner Glenn.
Commissioner Glenn, we had we survived our Alaska Airmen's weekend without any glitches, and it was spectacular considering the weather situation we were up against. And I believe 127,000 people went through the fairgrounds, so in 2 days. So it was spectacular. So turned out good, and I haven't heard any complaints about anything. No dinged up airplanes or anything. We had wind gusts to 60 on Saturday and horrendous dust. So that was a victory, and on to our next stuff.
Commissioner McCabe.
Just looks like summer is on its way here finally, and I hope everybody has some good plans made.
Commissioner Allen.
That's a good meeting today. I think we saw an example of what we often deal with, which is, one thing benefits one group of people and it can potentially hurt another, and we have to balance these things. And I think the staff does a really good job of doing that analysis for us and providing us the information to make informed decisions. I feel like they did a good job again today, so thanks.
Commissioner Fernandez.
No comment. Thank you.
Okay. I really don't have much to add other than hope everyone is enjoying their spring weather. I am excited to hear that Wasilla High School will be hosting the soccer state tournament this year, so that should be pretty exciting if you get a chance to get out there and check out a game. And that's all that I have. So, let's see. All of that said, we can go ahead and adjourn, unless there's any objections.
Point of order.
Oh,
I believe do we have officer comments?
oh, I'm sorry. Yes, excuse me.
No comments.
All
That was good.
All right. With that said, we'll go ahead and adjourn at 7:36.